Hi friends, welcome back to the channel. Boise la பார்க்க வேண்டிய முக்கியமான இடங்கள்ல ஒண்ணுன்னு பாத்தீங்கன்னா Idaho Capitol Building. ஸோ இன்னைக்கு ருபல்லாங்கிற செனட்டர் இந்தியன் கம்யூனிட்டிக்காகவே ஒரு டூர் அரேஞ்ச் பண்ணியிருக்காங்க. வாங்க உள்ள போய் பார்ப்போம். Idaho Capitol Buildingல ஃபர்ஸ்ட் நம்ம பார்க்குறது இந்த லிபர்ட்டி பெல். இது அமெரிக்கன் இண்டிபெண்டன்ஸோட ஐகானிக் சிம்பிள்னு சொல்லுவாங்க. இது ஃபர்ஸ்ட் டைம் 1750 பென்சில்வேனியாங்கிற இடத்துல கமிஷன் பண்ணியிருந்தாங்க. அதுக்கப்புறம் எல்லா அமெரிக்க ஸ்டேட் பில்டிங்லேயும் இந்த லிபர்ட்டி பெல்லை நீங்கள் பார்க்க முடியும். இந்த பிரம்மாண்டமான கேபிட்டல் பில்டிங்கோட ஹைட் பார்த்தீங்கன்னா 208 ஃபீட் இருக்குது, ஆல்மோஸ்ட் 63 மீட்டர்ஸ் அண்ட் 4.6 ஏக்கர்ஸில் இந்த கேபிட்டல் பில்டிங் அமைஞ்சிருக்கு. எவ்ரி சாட்டர்டே பாய்ஸியில் கேபிட்டல் பில்டிங்கில் பப்ளிக்கு ஓப்பனாக இருக்கும். நம்ம இந்த கேபிட்டல் பில்டிங் டூரை கார்டன் லெவல்லேருந்து ஸ்டார்ட் பண்ண போகிறோம். ஜிம் கிளர்க்குங்கிறவர் நம்மளோட டூர் கைடாக இருக்க போகிறாரு. அவர் நிறைய விஷயங்கள் இந்த பில்டிங்கை பற்றி நம்மக்கிட்ட எக்ஸ்பிளைன் பண்ண போகிறாரு.
This is the biggest public meeting room in the state capitol. There actually seats 240 people. The Senate and the House of Representatives both use this meeting room for public meetings. Okay, they can also have joint meetings, right? You guys can have meetings, right? So that they can do that. The first territorial capital was up there. Only lasted a little while, and then they moved the capital down to Boise because gold had been discovered in Boise. So they moved the Capitol down here because most of the people moved down here, right? So, second Capitol building was on the grounds of this building, and it was torn down when they built this building. This building was started in 1905. It was finished in 1920. It took 15 years. They built the center of the building itself, and then my understanding, a story that I read, is they actually ran out of money before they finished the two wings on the Capitol, which they finished in 1920. This building cost about $2 million to build. Okay? That seems like a lot of money. But between 2007 and 2010, we did a restoration on the building, and they actually added where we're at right now to the Capitol. They actually came in and dug this all out. We're 17 feet below the Capitol grounds right now. They dug this all out, made all these public meeting rooms, made office space for both the House and the Senate, okay? During that time, they pulled new wires, they ran all kinds of things, they fixed the air conditioning and the heat, all of those things. We spent $126 million, more than 60 times what the original Capitol cost. But we were just talking about this. If you had seen the Capitol before they did the restoration, and now you see the Capitol now, there's no comparison. I mean, it was pretty run down. After about 100 years of being in use, it was pretty well worn out. And they did a lot of work, got it really a nice building. It's a beautiful building now, okay? Let's see, I want to talk about this. So you're going to go upstairs. When we go upstairs, you're going to see some columns, and they're going to look like this. There are some big columns that are 60 feet tall, and those columns have a steel beam in the center of them, and they're actually holding up the dome of the Capitol. Then you'll see some smaller columns. They all look like this, and you would think that this kind of looks like marble, doesn't it? Yes. But it's not. It's actually a product called scagliola, and it's about 3/8 of an inch thick. They make it like a giant pancake. It's mixed up out of plaster and marble dust and gypsum and other things and paint, and they made it to look like marble. But the columns themselves are actually not marble, okay? They're built around, it's made around a lath system, and it's actually kind of glued to that. The big columns, like I said, have steel beams in the center of them. The smaller columns have bricks in the center of them, all right? And the smaller columns are actually holding up the floors of the Capitol upstairs. So you'll see how they go around the circle, and they're actually supporting the floors, okay? Any questions so far?
இப்போ நீங்கள் பார்க்குற இந்த ஹால்வேயோட லைட் சோர்ஸ் வந்து வெளியே இருக்கிற கார்டன்லேருந்து வர மாதிரி டிசைன் பண்ணியிருக்காங்க இங்கே.
Look at the marble on the floor up there. It looks similar, but it's not the same, because when they did the restoration, they didn't have more of the same marble. When they went to buy some from the quarry in Alaska, they found that the quarry had been covered by 60 feet of water due to an earthquake. So they couldn't get the marble from the same quarry, so they found another quarry that had similar marble, and they brought that. The greenish colored marble you see on the wall that's wainscoting, that came from the state of Vermont. You're going to see some marble upstairs. There's very little of it in the Capitol that's black, and that marble came from Italy. It's the only foreign marble in the Capitol building. Okay?
And you'll see here as we go by the mask of Abraham Lincoln. So that was made by actually putting, was it plaster over his face? So it wasn't just done by an artist, they actually made a mold of his actual face.
So there's actually two of those heads, one down there and one here. The first one, when the artist went to the White House and told Mr. Lincoln he'd like to make a mask of Mr. Lincoln's face, he goes, oh, well, okay, fine. He put plaster on Mr. Lincoln's face, they let it dry. When they pulled it off, it actually pulled some of his skin off because it stuck to his face. It's serious. When the second artist went to the White House a few years later, the president told him to get out of his building. Not happening. And he said, but I got a new way of doing it. And he says, no, I don't think so. And the guy finally convinced Mr. Lincoln, and they made this mask. Mr. Lincoln looks a lot older in this mask after 3.5 years in the White House than the first mask, right? But what the guy did is cover his face in baby oil. Put the plaster on. When he pulled the plaster off, it didn't even pull a whisker out of Mr. Lincoln's beard. Pretty nice. Okay? But the guy, I'm sure if he had heard it, Mr. Lincoln would have had him shot.
இந்த செக்யூரிட்டி வால் பார்க்குறதுக்கு ரொம்ப டிஃப்ரெண்ட்டாக இருந்தது. என்ன பர்பஸ்க்காக இங்கே வச்சுருக்காங்கன்னு எனக்கு தெரியல, பட் பார்க்குறதுக்கு ரொம்ப நல்லா இருந்தது.
But the last staircase goes around the outside of the Capitol dome, and it's a spiral staircase. It goes up. We can only take 3 people at a time on it because it's rickety. Okay? Yeah. My wife got about halfway up and said, I'm done. I'm going home. Okay. Questions? All right. We're going to head over here. Where we're going right now is pretty tight, so we'll have to do it kind of like groups, but I want to show you this elevator. Okay?
இப்போ நீங்கள் பார்க்குற எலிவேட்டர் வந்து முதல்ல ஜட்ஜஸ் யூஸ் பண்ணிட்டு இருந்தாங்க, இப்போ யாரும் யூஸ் பண்ணுறது கிடையாது. இது இந்த ஹவுஸ் சேம்பர் சாட்டர்டேயில் க்ளோஸாக இருக்கும் யூஸ்வலாக, பட் இன்னைக்கு ஸ்பெஷல் டூருங்கிறதுனால நம்மளுக்கு இங்கே உள்ளே பார்க்குறக்கு அலோவ் பண்ணியிருக்காங்க.
So she's the minority party leader in the House, all right? So we have a majority party leader, Mr. Moyle. We have a minority party leader here, and this is Rebel. Up there at that big chair, that's the Speaker of the House, and right now that's Scott Bedke. He's running for lieutenant governor. But anyway, so he's the Speaker of the House. So he is in charge of all the representatives, basically. He's elected in that position, all right? Now, Idaho is a red state. 80% Republican, 20% Democrat. Okay, that's the way the legislature is pretty much divided that same way. 80%, 20%. That makes the Democrats a minority party by a big margin. Makes it tough for Democrats to get things through the legislature. Okay? They have to have Republican support to get anything done. Right? Just the way the state is. It wasn't always that way. We've had several successful Democratic-controlled legislatures as well as governors. The longest-serving governor in Idaho was a Democrat, Cecil Andrus. Served 4 terms. So that's just the way life is. Now, in the Senate side, we don't have a Speaker of the Senate. We have a President pro tem, okay? And he is in charge, basically, of the Senate, right? But in the Senate, the Lieutenant Governor sits in the big chair. The Lieutenant Governor acts as the President of the Senate, but only gets to vote if there's a tie. So if there's a tie in the Senate, the Lieutenant Governor will break that tie, okay? Currently, all of the executive branch of Idaho, the governor, lieutenant governor, secretary of state, treasurer, attorney general, controller, superintendent of public education, are all Republicans. That doesn't happen all the time either, okay? But they're all Republicans. So, pretty much, the Capitol is controlled by Republicans at this particular point in time, okay? That's just the way life is right now, right? They do voting in here electronically.
Yeah, in fact, I can tell you a little bit about what it's like. So I'm going to go to my seat here, so this is where I would sit, and remember, this is where bills come to be debated and voted on. So they start out in the basement. If I want to bring a bill, and I'll just use for an example, the first bill I ever passed, which was, say, a bill addressing bullying in schools, to require that schools have a reporting system and training to avoid kids being bullied in schools. That was the first. And convince the Committee on Education to pass it, then it gets sent up to the full House floor here. And so then I would, stand up and I would present the bill and I would say, oh, bullying kids in school is terrible, it makes them hate school, it makes them want to drop out, we need to pass this bill. And we have a lot of formalities in terms of how we debate things on the floor. You can never talk about somebody by name. You always refer to them by their district number. And so let's say somebody wants to know something about my bill. So this guy over here stands up. You always have to go through the speaker. So you stand at your spot, you never move. Would a good lady from 18 yield to a question? And then I would stand up and say, the lady yields. And then he would ask me the question. So you refer to everybody as the lady or the gentleman from their district number. And you never call the governor either. You always call him the gentleman on the second floor. And you never call the Senate. You always call it the body across the rotunda. So there's all sorts of funny little formal ways you have to talk in here. But you do everything from your chair. You stand up and Mike moved down here for college, and I've been down here since I was 17 years old, and I had to prove to them that I was a citizen to be appointed.
Yeah, very cool. Okay, any other questions? Okay, you'll notice that the carpet in here is blue, the seats up there are blue. If you go to the Senate side, it's not because they're husbands, okay, just so you know, okay? If you go to the other side of the rotunda, to the Senate side, everything is red. The only reason for that is because we copied the United States Congress back in Washington, D.C. House is blue, Senate's red, we copied.
And this reminds me of something I want to tell you guys. So there are jobs for kids in here. They have jobs for pages, and they have, you have not really little kids, but you have to be a senior in high school. But it is the greatest thing to do. So if any of you know somebody who's going to be a senior in high school, they come, they even get paid. You work the committees, you work on the floor, you're carrying notes and papers and everything on the floor. You get to see all the debates on the floor, all the testimony in committee. I've sponsored a bunch of pages over the years. They all say I was the most interesting thing they ever did. It's a great resume builder. It helps you get into colleges. It's a wonderful thing to do. And the pages here were blue, and the pages over there were red. They have a whole blue outfit and a whole red outfit across the way. But when you get to that age, or if you know somebody who's that age, as you're heading into your senior year of high school, really think hard about being a pager. It's for 6 weeks. Usually, so you have to leave school for 6 weeks, but the schools are pretty good about it, and they try to accommodate because they think it's a pretty cool thing.
Still have to do your homework.
Still have to do some homework, yeah, but it's.
Like, could you, for example, could you have a job in Nikon and be a legislator?
Oh, that's a good question. I mean, the idea is that's how it's supposed to work, is the legislature, but you never know. Sometimes it meets January through March, sometimes January through April, sometimes January through May. It's very unpredictable. We didn't finally adjourn last year until November, so it can be difficult to plan another job around. And then you have to campaign to get elected as well. So you can have another job if you can find another job that doesn't mind that you're only showing up 6 months a year. But it's, you know, a lot of the people here tend to be retired or to own their own business. I think ideally, originally it was probably set up for farmers, because I think January through March was kind of the quiet time for farming. It was after the harvest, but before the planting. But, you know, it's not all farmers anymore around here. But yeah, it's not a great thing to do for your side career, I would have to that. And you can always come. This is always open to the public, this gallery up here. So the public can't speak about
This is General Washington at the Battle of Multnomah during the Revolutionary War. This statue is carved out of one solid piece of Idaho pine. One piece of wood. The gentleman that carved it was an immigrant to the United States from Germany. He was actually Austrian. His name was Charles Osner. He and his wife are buried over in the old cemetery by the train station. Okay? But he came to the United States to get away from persecution in Europe. Okay? He was very outspoken, and they didn't care for that too much back then. And he came here. When he got here, he was looking for gold. Gold had been discovered, and he was looking for gold. He wound up in the Boise Basin. He actually found some gold. He bought a farm up in Garden Valley, up on the other side of Bogus Basin. One day while he was out in his field, he found this giant piece of pine, drug it back to his barn, and from 1865 to 1869, he carved this statue by himself in his barn. Okay? Did it all by himself, no power tools, carved it by hand. When he finished it, he said, I'm going to give this to the state of Idaho. He brought it by wagon down to Boise and presented it to the state of Idaho. It's been in our possession ever since. Right? It sat outside on the Capitol grounds until about 1935. It was in pretty bad shape from the winters, from the geese, okay? Mainly from the geese, right? You guys all know what geese do, right? Yeah, right? So, they brought it in, they cleaned it up, they covered it with metal and painted it with real gold paint. So he's actually painted with real gold paint. Anybody? Senators, 10 representatives. Currently, in the legislature, since Republicans are the majority party, all of the chair people of each committee are Republicans.
ஃபோர்த் ஃப்ளோர் முடிஞ்சதுக்கப்புறம் நீங்கள் டோமுக்கு போகிற என்ட்ரி பார்த்தீங்கன்னா கொஞ்சம் இடம் கம்மியாக இருக்கிறதுனால ரொம்ப குறுகலாக தான் இருக்கும். யூஸ்வலாக சாட்டர்டேஸ்லேயும் பார்த்தீங்கன்னா இந்த டோம் என்ட்ரி க்ளோஸ்டாக தான் இருக்கும்.
So, be careful up there, all right? There's railing and it's fine, okay? Just don't let the kids...
இந்த டோம் ஏரியாவில் பார்த்தீங்கன்னா வாலுக்கும் பில்லருக்கும் இடையில ஹார்ட்லி ஒரு 2 பேர் நிற்கிற அளவுக்கு தான் இடங்கள் இருக்கும். பட் அழகான வியூ நீங்கள் பார்க்க முடியும் டவுன் டவுன் ஏரியா மற்ற இடங்களும். லெஃப்ட் சைடில் நீங்கள் பார்க்குற இந்த ஸ்டேர் கேஸ் வந்து டோமோட அடுத்த லெவலுக்கு போகிறக்குண்டான ரூட் இது. ஸோ இது வழியாக போனீங்கன்னா அடுத்த ஸ்பைரல் என்ட்ரி ஒன்று இருக்கும். ஸோ அது வழியாக நெக்ஸ்ட் லெவலுக்கு போகலாம். ஐடஹோ பற்றி இன்னும் நிறையா நீங்கள் விஷயங்கள் தெரிஞ்சுக்கணுன்னா ஐடஹோ ப்ளூ புக்னு ஒரு புக் இருக்குது. இது நீங்கள் பாய்சி லைப்ரரியில் கிடைக்கும். இல்லை நீங்கள் ஆன்லைனில் சாஃப்ட் காப்பியும் டவுன்லோட் பண்ணிக்கலாம். இந்த ஸ்டேட் கேபிட்டல் பில்டிங் டூரில் மேக்ஸிமம் ஏரியாஸ் நான் கவர் பண்ணியிருக்கேன். உங்களுக்கு பிடிச்சிருக்குன்னு நினைக்கிறேன். இதே மாதிரி இன்னொரு வீடியோவில் சந்திப்போம். பாய்.